responded to the 5100 block of Wells to investigate a shot spotter activation. When officers arrived, they found an adult man who had been shot and was dead in the front porch area of that house on Wells. Homicide detectives responded to start their investigation, and they requested assistance from the ATF to look for ballistic evidence that could possibly be related to this homicide investigation. Officers and detectives believed that there could be evidence inside the home, and they surrounded the home, secured a perimeter, and awaited a search warrant so they could go inside the home. As we were waiting for a search warrant to enter that home, around 7 o'clock, a man exited that home and started to have a conversation with law enforcement on the scene. That individual went back inside. He exited the home again, armed with a rifle. One SLMPD officer and an ATF special agent exchanged gunfire with the suspect before the suspect re-entered the home. And at that moment, it was unclear of the status of the suspect. Our SWAT team was called to the scene, along with negotiators who attempted to make contact with that individual. We were unable to make any contact with the suspect, which is when SWAT entered the home. Our SWAT officers immediately saw the suspect in the front doorway of the home, the same suspect who was involved in that gun battle with law enforcement. SWAT continued to search the rest of the home. During that search, they found an adult woman dead inside the living room, an adult man inside the basement, all dead. At this time, all 3 victims appeared to have been shot. And at this point, we have not been able to positively identify the victims involved in this incident. In policing, there is no ordinary call for service. Today certainly proves that. Thankfully, no SLMPD officers or federal agents were injured during the exchange of gunfire. The SLMPD officer is a 28-year-old with 3 years of dedicated service to the city of St. Louis. We are still working to positively identify the suspect, but at this point we believe he is a 61-year-old man who is also a convicted felon. Our crime lab responded to the home. They have been searching that home. They located 5 different firearms, 3 of which were near the suspect that was found dead, that was involved in the shootout with police. There were questions related to the home earlier today. The home was in deplorable condition inside. I wouldn't go as far to say that it was vacant. We'd found clothing items inside the home. There were tools inside the home along with wood, like it had been under remodel. But it was in pretty bad shape. The investigation is ongoing. There are multiple divisions of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department that are involved, including our homicide division and our force investigations unit. That is the prepared update that I have thus far. But again, we are still working to positively identify the victims and the suspect. Even though we have a good idea of who that suspect is, we still have to forensically identify him. But there are many questions related to the relationship and who knows who and how in this situation. So there are still a lot of unanswered questions that our detectives are working to gather answers on.
Is there anything about the condition of the victims that has made it difficult to ID them at this point?
I wouldn't say that. We're just still a few hours in, but nothing at the scene that would make it difficult for us to identify.
And do you have any idea when each victim was killed? Could the other 2 that were inside have been killed days before?
That'll be part of the medical examiner's investigation into the time of death on each victim, but there's nothing at the scene to suggest that this was a multi-day event.
Do you know if the suspect, his death was self-inflicted, or was that the result of the exchange of gunfire with the officers?
Evidence at the scene and in a initial review appears that he was injured in the gun battle with police.
Why was ATF there?
ATF was originally called to the scene to help us look for ballistic evidence. The area around that home has tall grass. It's a very weedy area. The ATF had sent resources to assist us in locating ballistic evidence, and they were helping us secure that home, and we're still there when the man exited the home and ultimately led to that exchange of gunfire.
Can you tell us more about the types of firearms that were found, and if the suspect is believed to be a convicted felon, he is legally able to have firearms?
He, based off of who we think he is a convicted felon and should not have had firearms at all. I can go into the fact that there were 5 different firearms recovered, some of which were some heavy gunfire, but we're not going to get into the specifics of the types of firearms that were recovered just yet.
Now, we spoke to a friend of the suspect who said that the 2 individuals who were found dead inside of the home, they were coming
The
over.
man and the female.
Yes.
Okay.
They were coming over 2 days prior to change the locks on his home, and he had killed them.
I can't confirm that. That is the first time I'm hearing that. Obviously, our detectives are still in the middle of talking to folks. There's a lot of questions surrounding the relationship between all of the parties involved. That may be part of the investigation. It's very early on. There's going to be questions as to what led up to the shooting at 4 o'clock this morning when there was a shot spotter activation. And so that will be part of the overall investigation as well.
So would you say there are questions to see if, these 2 victims were killed prior than this morning?
Well, building the timeline of what happened is going to be the first priority of any homicide detective or really any investigator. You need a timeline of events. And part of building that timeline will be working with the medical examiner's office. At this point, there's no evidence to suggest that this was a multi-day event. But as the medical examiner and our detectives review evidence, things could change. But there's nothing right now to indicate that this was a multi-day event.
Can you elaborate on the shot spotter activation? Was
Sure.
it one shot that was fired and picked up, or was it multiple?
I don't know. Do you know if it was multiple that were detected by ShotSpotter? I know that when ShotSpotter was activated, it activated in a certain area of the tall grass, which is why we asked for the ATF's assistance in locating that ballistic evidence. But I don't know how many rounds ShotSpotter detected. There was enough, though, at least one, to initiate that ShotSpotter activation.
And would ShotSpotter pick up any shots fired inside the house?
It would not. It would only pick up the shots that were fired outside. And it had indicated that it was right near that home or potentially right there in that yard, tall grass area.
And just to be clear, at this point, do you think that this suspect shot all 3 individuals?
At this time, the working theory would be that he was involved in all of the homicides. That's the theory at this point.
Can you give any more details on the victims, just general age frame or
Sure.
anything?
And keep in mind, we are working just off of appearances. We don't have a positive ID. The man this morning around 4 a.m., we have an age range of between 45 to 55. The female maybe between 30s and 40s. And it is unclear on the second man that was found in the basement, even an age range on him yet.
You said the home was in deplorable condition. Do you know if it had working utilities and were no narcotics found in the house?
I don't know if narcotics were found, and I don't know if there were working utilities. I do know that from our investigators that the home was in very terrible condition. And the scene inside, just the surroundings of the home itself was in deplorable condition.
Is there any like indication of like a struggle between the suspect and potential victims in the home as well?
I'm not aware of that.
Was the potential convicted felon the homeowner that we know of, or is this some other property ownership?
That'll be part of our investigation. That's unclear at this point.
Can you confirm that, you know, the two people inside, that they were not hit by any gunfire from the officers?
Well, the man that was found dead inside the basement, he was found shot in the basement. And at this point, there's no evidence to suggest that the individuals were hit by any rounds from law enforcement.
Was weaponry found near any of the victims inside the home, or just the three next to the suspect?
I don't know where the two other firearms were located inside the home. 3 firearms were located near the suspect. One of those firearms was found underneath the suspect after the shooting. Okay. I want to give you guys an update. A few of you guys have reached out on a crash. It certainly drew a lot of attention. In District 1 this morning, about 10:10 this morning, district officers responded to a crash near River de Pere and Old English Road. During that crash, one of the vehicles veered off into the River de Pere. The vehicle was not submerged. There was very little water in the River de Pere, shockingly, because it's been raining so much. But thankfully, there were no serious injuries. One person was transported to the hospital. We think that that person has a broken leg, but is being evaluated by medical personnel. Our district and officers are going to be responsible for investigating that. As I'm going through my notes here, you guys had asked, and I think Kim, you also asked about the calls for service history. I think Shoshana asked as well. There were 2 other calls for service recently at this home on Wells. Sorry, switching back to Wells. There was some type of suspicious person call and a disturbance call. Those were the only 2 calls for service at that home on Wells. In the last 2 years? Okay. The first one is gonna be a suspicious person. That was on February 13th, 2024. That was at 2:41 p.m. And then there was a call for a disturbance on November 2nd, 2024. And that was going to be at 8:16 a.m. And then that's it, other than the shooting and the evidence ETU request this morning.
All right.
Any other questions? We don't have any other prepared updates for today or this weekend. If there are any updates related to this case, it will be pushed on the page on our website. Once we are able to positively identify everyone involved, that will be where the updates are pushed. I also, just a side note, as we head into the weekend, just remind folks about use it or lose it. That is in effect. If you use an ATV or a dirt bike on a city street, we are seizing it. Consider it your warning, and we will have officers deployed in various parts of the city of St. Louis, and we would like everybody to enjoy their weekend. And it would be off to a very rocky start if you use it in the city of St. Louis, because we are taking it. Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Mitch.